Hello everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to introduce today's presentation on SSC CGL Tier 2 for 2025. We'll be focusing on computer knowledge MCQs, all based on real exam questions. Over the next few slides, we'll explore key concepts and practice questions to help you prepare effectively. Let's get started and make this session both informative and engaging. All right, now it's your turn to try. Go ahead and solve the questions or activities we've discussed so far. Once you've completed that, make sure to check your score at the end. This step is really important because it helps you see how well you've understood the material and where you might want to review again. Remember, practicing and checking your progress are key parts of learning, so take your time and be honest with yourself. I encourage you to use this opportunity to reinforce what you've learned and identify any areas that might need a little extra attention. So, when you're ready, give it your best shot and then review your score at the end. All right, let's look at this question. It asks which mechanism handles object linking in OLE by maintaining a persistent connection to a remote server, CLSID. Now, OLE, or object linking and embedding, allows us to create links between documents or applications, making data sharing seamless. When it comes to keeping that link alive, especially when the object is on a remote server, the underlying technology needs to manage a stable, ongoing connection. That's where understanding the roles of these options becomes important. Option A, blob indexing, relates more to database storage and large object management, not specifically to linking or remote connections. Option B, AWT, is a Java toolkit for building user interfaces, not connected to object linking or server connections. Option C, SMTP, is about sending emails, which isn't relevant here. Now, the key option is D, the Component Object Model, or COM. COM is a Microsoft technology that enables software components to communicate with each other, often over networks, and it handles the persistent connection to remote objects via their CLSID or class identifier. So, in the context of object linking in OLE, the mechanism that maintains this persistent connection to a remote server's CLSID is the Component Object Model, COM. That's the most accurate choice here, and it ties directly back to our overall theme of understanding how different technologies enable seamless integration and communication between objects and applications. Now, let's look at how you can quickly switch between your open apps using keyboard shortcuts. The question here is, in Windows 10 and 11, which shortcut allows you to cycle through your apps on the taskbar in the order they are pinned? First, option A, Windows key plus T. This actually highlights the first pinned app on your taskbar, and pressing it repeatedly moves the focus through the apps in order. It's a handy way to navigate quickly without reaching for your mouse. Next, option B, Alt plus Tab. This is a well-known shortcut that shows all open windows, not just pinned apps. It's great for switching between multiple applications, but isn't limited to the taskbar order. Option C, Windows key plus Tab. This opens the task view, displaying all your open windows and virtual desktops, giving a broader view rather than cycling through pinned apps specifically. Finally, option D, Control plus Alt plus Tab. This combination is typically used for accessing certain menus or features, but it doesn't cycle through your apps on the taskbar. So, when we're focusing on cycling through pinned apps on the taskbar in order, the right answer is the Windows key plus T. It's a simple, efficient way to navigate your pinned apps without interrupting your workflow, which ties into our overall theme of mastering Windows shortcuts to boost productivity. All right, let's take a closer look at this slide. At the end, I want you to check your answer. So, in the OSI model, which layer is responsible for routing packets across different networks using logical addressing? Now, think about the options here. Is it the data link layer, the session layer, the network layer, or the transport layer? The key concept to remember is that routing packets between different networks involves determining the best path for data to travel. That function relies on logical addressing, like IP addresses, and that responsibility falls squarely on the network layer. This layer is crucial because it makes sure data gets from one device to another across various networks. This ties into our overall theme of understanding how data moves through complex systems. So, keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, take a moment to consider your answer. All right, let's take a look at this slide. At the end of this, I want you to check your answer. The question here is, in Excel, which function would you use to count the number of cells in a range that meet a specific condition? Now, we have 4 options listed. The first one, A equals countif, A1, A10, 10. This function counts the number of cells within A1 to A10 that are greater than 10. It's perfect for counting cells based on a condition. The second option, B equals count blank, A1, A10, this one counts how many cells are empty. The third, C equals count A1, A10, sums up the number of cells that contain numbers, ignoring blanks and text. And the last, D equals sumif, A1, A10, 10, sums the values in the range that meet the condition, but it doesn't count them. So the key concept here is that if you want to count cells based on a specific condition, the function you're looking for is COUNTIF. It's a powerful tool for data analysis, especially when you're trying to filter or categorize your data based on certain criteria. And this ties into our overall theme of working efficiently with data in Excel. So, take a moment to think about which function best fits this purpose. And remember, COUNTIF is your go-to for counting cells that meet specific conditions. Now let's move on to slide 7. At the end of this slide, you'll see a prompt to check your answer, so keep that in mind. The question here is, which of the following options is a secure method for encrypting emails to protect their content from unauthorized access? We have 4 choices: A. SMIME, B. IMAP, C. SSL, and D. SMTP. First, it's important to understand that email encryption is essential for safeguarding sensitive information. Now, looking at the options, SMIME, or Secure Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extensions, is specifically designed for encrypting emails. It provides a way to encrypt the actual message content and also to digitally sign messages, ensuring both confidentiality and authenticity. On the other hand, IMAP, which stands for Internet Message Access Protocol, is mainly a protocol used for retrieving emails from a server. It doesn't inherently provide encryption for the email content itself. SSL, or Secure Sockets Layer, is a protocol that encrypts the connection between your email client and the server, ensuring that data transferred is secure, but it doesn't encrypt the email content directly. Similarly, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is used for sending emails, but on its own, it's not a secure method for encrypting the message content. So the key takeaway here is that SMIME is specifically designed for email encryption, making it the most appropriate and secure choice among these options. Remember, choosing the right encryption method is crucial for maintaining privacy and security in our communications. Now, I encourage you to check your answer at the end of the slide to see if you selected the correct method for encrypting emails. Now, let's check your understanding of the key registers involved during the instruction cycle. First, we have the Memory Address Register, or MAR, which holds the memory address of the data or instruction we're working with. Next is the Program Counter, or PC, which keeps track of the next instruction to be executed by pointing to its address in memory. Then there's the Instruction Register, or IR, and this is the crucial one for today's question. The IR holds the actual instruction that is currently being decoded and executed by the CPU. Finally, the accumulator, or AC, is used for arithmetic operations and temporarily storing data during processing. So, during the instruction cycle, the register that specifically holds the instruction being decoded and executed is the instruction register, the IR. It's essential because it allows the CPU to understand what operation to perform next. This process is central to how the CPU processes instructions step by step, ensuring smooth execution of programs. Now, let's see if you can identify the correct register on your own. Now, let's look at this common issue that can happen during a presentation. When you edit content on a slide, Sometimes a text box can move out of place, which can be quite frustrating. So the question here is, what design mistake is most likely causing this? The options are using the default layout, not using placeholders instead of text boxes, or modifying the slide master. Let's break this down. If you're using the default layout, it's more of a generic setup, less control over individual elements, so that's less likely to cause movement when editing. Not using placeholders is a possibility, but usually, placeholders are designed to keep things aligned. Using placeholders instead of text boxes is interesting because placeholders are meant to be fixed regions for content, whereas text boxes are more flexible and can be moved around. And finally, modifying the slide master can definitely affect how content behaves, especially if layout elements are changed or repositioned. Overall, the most common cause of this issue is modifying the slide master, because changes there can ripple through all slides and cause elements to shift unexpectedly. So the key takeaway is, be cautious when editing the slide master. It can impact your slide content layout significantly. This helps us understand how to prevent layout issues and keep our slides looking professional and consistent throughout the presentation. Now, let's consider the primary architectural advantage of a microprogrammed control unit over a hardwired one. As we look at the options, the first is lower power consumption. While that can be a benefit, it's not the main advantage here. Next, ease of instruction set updates. This is a key point, because with microprogrammed control, updating the instruction set is generally simpler since changes can often be made by modifying the control memory rather than reconfiguring hardware. Moving on, faster execution speed is actually more associated with hardwired control units, which are designed for speed. Lastly, reduced physical gate count. This can be true in some cases, but it's not the core reason for choosing microprogrammed control. So the most important advantage here is the ease of instruction set updates, because it highlights one of the biggest flexibilities and benefits of microprogrammed control units in designing adaptable and easily modifiable systems. Now let's look at this scenario. Imagine you're a teacher trying to analyze your class scores. You want to see only the students who scored above 75 marks, but you don't want to delete any data. So, what's the best way to do this in Excel? Well, the key here is to filter your data without losing any information. The options given are remove duplicates, freeze panes, sort, and filter. Remove duplicates isn't suitable because it removes repeated entries, which isn't what we need here. Freeze panes helps us keep headers visible as we scroll, but doesn't help in filtering data based on scores. Sorting can organize your data, but it doesn't allow you to selectively display only those above 75. That leaves us with filter, which is a powerful tool for this purpose. Using filter, you can quickly display only the students who scored above 75, while keeping all your data intact. It's all about making your data more manageable and insightful without making permanent changes. Remember, filtering is essential for analyzing specific segments of data while preserving the original dataset for future use. All right, let's take a look at this question about inserting a manual line break within a cell in Excel. When you're working in Excel's edit mode, sometimes you want to add a new line inside a cell without moving to a different cell. The question is, which keyboard shortcut allows you to do that? Now, the options are Control plus Enter, Shift plus Enter, Alt plus Enter, and Tab plus Enter. The key here is to remember that creating a line break inside a cell requires a specific key combination that tells Excel to insert a new line rather than completing the current action. The correct shortcut is Alt plus Enter. When you press Alt plus Enter while editing a cell, Excel inserts a manual line break right there inside the cell. This is especially useful when you want to organize text neatly, like adding multiple lines of addresses, notes, or any data that benefits from being displayed on separate lines within the same cell. So, to connect this to our overall theme, mastering Excel's shortcuts enhances efficiency and precision in data management. Knowing how to quickly format your data with shortcuts like Alt plus Enter makes your workflows smoother and your spreadsheets more readable. Remember, Alt plus Enter is your go-to shortcut for inserting a manual line break inside a cell. Now, let's check your understanding at the end of this slide. So, what is the main purpose of a Trojan horse in network and information security? Well, option A is to steal or delete files and create a backdoor for hackers. This is actually the most accurate description. Trojans often disguise themselves as legitimate software, but their real goal is to give attackers access to your system, allowing them to steal data or even take control. Option B suggests intercepting network traffic by flooding communication channels, which is more characteristic of a different kind of attack, like a denial of service. Option C talks about overwhelming servers to block traffic, which again points to denial of service attacks, not Trojans. And option D mentions silently copying itself using vulnerabilities, which is more typical of worms than Trojans. So, as we wrap up, remember that Trojans are mainly about deception and unauthorized access, tricking users into installing malicious software that then opens a door for hackers. This ties directly into our overall theme of understanding different threats and how to protect our networks. Now, let's take a look at what happens at the end of this process, checking your answer. When we're dealing with data transfer, it's crucial to ensure everything is accurate and reliable. One way to do this is by synchronizing internal clocks, which helps keep data aligned. Encrypting data is also vital to protect sensitive information during transmission. Providing error detection mechanisms allows us to identify and correct any mistakes that may occur. Lastly, preventing data loss by managing buffer overflow ensures that no data is lost when the system is overwhelmed. Specifically, in asynchronous serial communication, hardware handshaking plays a key role. For example, using RTS and CTS lines helps coordinate data flow between devices. Essentially, RTS signals the sender to start sending data, while CTS tells the sender to stop if the receiver is busy. This handshake prevents data from being lost or corrupted due to buffer overflow or mismatched speeds. It's a vital part of ensuring smooth and reliable communication, especially when dealing with asynchronous data streams. So, in summary, hardware handshaking ensures that both devices are synchronized and ready to exchange data efficiently, which fits into our overall goal of making data communication more reliable and error-free. All right, now let's check your answer at the end of this slide. The question here is, what is the main purpose of using file compression before uploading to cloud storage? We have 4 options. A. Convert to secure format. B. Reduce file size and save storage space. C. Encrypt file. And D. Make file readable across devices. The key point to understand is that file compression is primarily used to minimize the size of your files. This means you can save a lot of storage space, which is especially important when dealing with large files or limited storage capacity in the cloud. It's important to note that compression isn't the same as encryption or converting files into a secure format. Nor does it necessarily make files readable across different devices. That's more about compatibility and format support. So the most accurate answer here is B. Reduce file size and save storage space. This helps optimize your cloud storage usage and can also speed up uploads and downloads. Remember, the overall goal of using compression in cloud storage is efficiency, saving space and making data management easier. Now, think about your answer and we'll see if it matches. Now let's look at some common options you might need to check or modify in Word. On this slide, we have 4 choices. First, the autocorrect replacement list. This is where Word automatically corrects common typos or replaces abbreviations with full words. Next, page orientation and margin settings. These control whether your page is portrait or landscape and how much space is around the text. Then, the font face of the normal style. This determines the default font used throughout your document unless you change it manually. And finally, document properties metadata, which includes details like author, title, and keywords stored within the file. Now, here's the key point related to our main question. When you insert a section break, next page, it creates a new section in your document. The question is, which attribute can you modify for this new section without affecting the previous one? The answer is the page setup options, things like page orientation and margins, because sections allow you to have different formatting in different parts of your document. This flexibility is crucial for complex documents, where different sections need distinct layouts. So, understanding how section breaks work helps you manage your document's formatting efficiently, which ties into our overall goal of mastering Word's features to create professional and well-structured documents. Now, let's take a moment to check your answer at the end of this question. The question asks, what is the primary benefit of enabling encryption for data in transit on a network? The options are A, ensures data is unreadable during transmission, B, protects against physical theft, C, improves transfer speed, and D, prevents unauthorized network access. The key point here is that encryption specifically focuses on protecting the data as it moves across the network. When we enable encryption, we're making sure that if someone intercepts the data, they can't understand it because it's scrambled or unreadable. This is crucial for maintaining confidentiality and integrity of sensitive information. While protecting against physical theft or preventing unauthorized access are important security measures, they are handled differently, such as through physical security controls or network access controls. Improving transfer speed isn't a benefit of encryption. In fact, encryption can sometimes add a slight overhead to the process. So the most accurate answer is A, ensures data is unreadable during transmission. This aligns with the overall goal of encryption, keeping data secure and private as it travels across networks. All right, let's look at the options for checking your answer at the end. First, applying direct formatting allows you to change the appearance of a specific element without affecting others, which can be useful if you want precise control. Using the Format Painter is a quick way to copy formatting from one section to another, saving time when applying consistent styles. Modifying the style involves changing the predefined style settings, but this will affect all instances of that style throughout the document, which isn't ideal if you want only one heading to change. Changing the theme alters the overall look of your entire document, so it's too broad for this case. Since you're editing a 50-page thesis and want only a single heading to change without affecting the rest, the best approach is applying direct formatting. It's straightforward and allows you to modify just the selected heading. Remember, this is about maintaining consistency while also giving you control over individual elements. So, in this scenario, applying direct formatting is the most suitable choice to ensure only your selected heading changes. Check your answer at the end, but let's focus on what makes DisplayPort stand out when compared to HDMI. So, when we look at these features, which one is unique to DisplayPort architecture? The options are daisy chaining, Ethernet over cable, TMDS signaling, and uncompressed audio. Now, the key point here is that DisplayPort has this really useful feature called daisy chaining, also known as multi-stream transport, or MST. This allows you to connect multiple monitors through a single port, which is a pretty significant advantage for setups that require multiple displays. On the other hand, HDMI also transmits audio and video signals, but it doesn't natively support daisy chaining in the same way. Ethernet over cable, TMDS signaling, and uncompressed audio are features common to both interfaces or more associated with HDMI. So the feature that's unique to DisplayPort and really highlights its flexibility for advanced display setups is daisy chaining, or MSD. Remember, this feature underscores the overall theme of our presentation: how different interfaces serve different needs, and how DisplayPort offers some unique capabilities for professional and multi-monitor environments. Let's walk through this together. We have a computer system with a memory capacity of 4K by 8 bits. Now, what does that tell us? Well, 4K, which is 4096, represents the number of memory locations. Each location stores 8 bits, or 1 byte. The key question here is, how many address lines do we need to access all these locations? Think of address lines like the bits in the binary address. Each line can be either 0 or 1. So, to find out how many lines are needed, we need to figure out how many binary combinations can cover all 4096 addresses. Now, if we think about powers of 2, 2 to the power of what gives us 4096. That's right, 2 to the 12th power equals 4096. So, this means we need 12 address lines to uniquely address each location in this memory. Understanding this is crucial because the number of address lines directly impacts how the system accesses memory and how complex the addressing circuitry needs to be. Remember, the more address lines we have, the larger the address space, and the more flexible our memory management becomes. So, in summary, for a 4K memory capacity, we need 12 address lines. This number is fundamental in designing the memory architecture and ensuring efficient access to data across the system. Check your answer at the end. In enterprise storage, when we talk about copy-on-write snapshots, we're really focusing on how they differ from traditional backups. Option A is key here. It stores pointers to data blocks until they are modified. This means the snapshot doesn't copy all the data up front, but instead keeps track of where data is and only creates copies when changes happen. This approach is much more efficient in terms of storage and performance compared to traditional backups, which often involve copying entire data sets. Option B suggests the snapshot is stored on a separate device, which can be true, but it's not the defining characteristic of a copy-on-write snapshot. Option C, requiring the system to be offline, is more relevant to older backup methods and not to how modern snapshots operate. And option D, creating a full clone immediately, describes cloning rather than snapshotting. So that's not accurate for copy-on-write snapshots either. So the most important takeaway is that copy-on-write snapshots are about storing pointers until data changes, making them a quick and storage-efficient way to capture the state of your data without disrupting normal operations. All right, let's look at some of the main limitations of using symmetric encryption for securing communications. First, it requires more computational resources, which can be a challenge especially for devices with limited processing power. This means encrypting and decrypting large amounts of data can be slow and resource-intensive. Second, encryption and decryption processes can be too slow for real-time or high-volume applications, which might not meet the performance needs of certain systems. Third, key distribution and management become quite challenging. Since the same key is used for both encryption and decryption, securely sharing and managing these keys across different parties can be complicated and risky if not handled properly. Finally, a key point to remember is that symmetric encryption can't be used for data at rest in some cases, especially when you need to protect stored data without exposing the key. So, among these options, the most significant limitation to keep in mind is the challenge in key distribution and management, because it directly impacts the security and practicality of symmetric encryption in many scenarios. Let's go through the answers on this slide to reinforce some key concepts. First, the correct answer for question 1 is D, Component Object Model, or COM. This is a vital technology for enabling software components to communicate and work together seamlessly across different applications. Moving on to question 2, the answer is A, Windows key plus T. This shortcut helps you quickly cycle through open applications on the taskbar, improving your workflow and efficiency. For question 3, the correct choice is C, Network Layer. This is a fundamental part of the OSI model that handles data transfer between devices over a network, ensuring reliable communication. Next, question 4's answer is A, COUNTIF. This is a powerful function in spreadsheet applications like Excel, allowing you to count cells that meet specific criteria, which is essential for data analysis. Question 5's correct answer is A, SMIME. This protocol provides secure email communication through encryption and digital signatures, safeguarding sensitive information. For question 6, the answer is C, Instruction Register, or IR. This register temporarily holds the current instruction being executed, playing a crucial role in the CPU's processing cycle. Question 7 points to B, not using placeholders. When designing forms or interfaces, avoiding placeholders can sometimes improve user clarity and reduce confusion. Next, question 8's answer is B, ease of instruction set updates. This concept relates to how instruction sets can be designed for easier updates, which is important for maintaining and upgrading hardware and software. For question 9, the correct choice is D, filter. Filters are used in various applications to sort or refine data, making it easier to analyze or display relevant information. Finally, question 10's answer is C, Alt plus Enter. This shortcut often toggles between full screen and windowed modes in many applications, helping you manage your workspace more effectively. By understanding these points, we're connecting the dots on how different technologies and shortcuts enhance our efficiency and system understanding. Let's go through the answers and clarify each one. For number 11, the key point is about security vulnerabilities, creating a backdoor or stealing data. These are common malicious activities hackers might attempt to exploit. Moving to number 12, preventing data loss is crucial for safeguarding information, especially through backups and recovery strategies. For number 13, reducing file size helps with storage efficiency and faster transmission. Number 14 highlights the importance of page orientation and margins, which are fundamental in document formatting and presentation layout. In number 15, data being unreadable during transmission points to encryption, protecting data while it's transferred over networks. For number 16, applying direct formatting allows us to customize individual parts of a document without affecting the whole, giving us more control. Number 17 discusses daisy chaining, or MSD, a method used to connect multiple devices in a series, which is important in network topology. In number 18, the reference to 12 lines or 4K being 4096 or 2 to the 12th power emphasizes the significance of binary systems in computing and data storage. Moving on to number 19, storing pointers until data is modified is a technique that improves efficiency by avoiding unnecessary data copying. Finally, number 20 highlights the challenge of key distribution in cryptography. It's often the most difficult part of secure communication because securely sharing keys is essential but tricky. When we look at these points collectively, they cover vital concepts in security, data management, formatting, and network design, each playing a role in the broader digital landscape we're exploring today. So now it's your turn to comment on your score. I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned and how well you think you did. Sharing your thoughts helps solidify your understanding and also allows for some valuable feedback. Remember, this is a great opportunity to engage actively with the content and see how it all connects to the bigger picture we've been discussing throughout this presentation. Don't be shy. Your insights and reflections are an important part of your learning journey.